This is exercise 3 for the Lofts and Polygons lesson. To begin example 3, again we're going to start with a blank inch part file open. And we can start by creating our planes. I'm going to go ahead and select the top plane, and select Features, then select Reference Geometry, and then select Plane. In this case, instead of just creating one plane, we want to create two planes 2.5 inches apart from each other. So this will make the last plane 5 inches apart from the first plane. We can go ahead and select OK. And now we have our three planes. Let's make planes visible so we can also see them. And again, we don't need to see the front and the side plane, so I'm going to go ahead and hide those two planes. Now that we're ready to start sketching, on my top plane, which is plane 2, the very top one of the three, I can go ahead and start a sketch. On this plane, I'd like to sketch a circle with the center at the origin and use a smart dimension to define the diameter to 2.5 inches. With that sketch fully defined, I can save and exit the sketch. I'll now select my second plane and begin a sketch. Again, let's look normal to that plane. This time I'm going to draw an ellipse. I'd like to snap the height to the circle and then have the width elongated. Just make sure that's snapped, and it is, but we also need to make it vertical from the origin so that the ellipse can't rotate. Now lastly, we simply have to define the width of the ellipse. So again, I'll use a smart dimension and set the width of the ellipse to 4 inches. Again, with that sketch fully defined, I can save and exit the sketch. Lastly, I'll sketch on my top plane. So I can go ahead and select the plane and select Sketch. Again, looking normal to that sketch. In this case, I'd like to sketch a rectangle, so I'll go ahead and select the rectangle and use a center rectangle. I'm going to start at the origin and sketch my rectangle. I'll press Escape to get out of my rectangle command and fully define my rectangle by selecting the top point of my ellipse and the top edge of my rectangle and adding a coincident relationship. Again, I'll do the same to define the width of my rectangle. Now lastly, I'll use a fillet set at a radius of 1/4 inch, 0.25, and fillet the corners of my rectangle. Again, with that sketch complete and fully defined, I can save and exit the sketch. We're now ready to begin creating our loft. Let's go ahead and select Features, then select Lofted Boss, and select each of our profiles. With all the profiles selected, we can move down to the start and end constraints. In our case, we'd like to have a start constraint of normal to profile for a distance of 1 inch, and the same constraint for the end constraint. With our options correct, we can select OK. And that concludes exercise 3. Again, I hope this exercise was a help.